Hello, everyone. This is the Miss Analytical radio show on Spreaker.com with your host, Miss Analytical. I wonder how everybody is doing tonight, and I hope all is well with each and every one of you that are listening to the show and that's gonna listen to the show. This topic that I'm gonna talk about today, I've been debating about it for about, I could say, a couple of days. And why I debated about it is because it was something that I didn't want to really get into real deep because this is something that happened years ago, but the incident was just recent. But what's the incident that happened years ago pretty much involves the passing of Whitney Houston. And the main characters within the story that I'm about to share with you are Pat Houston, Whitney, Bobby Christina, Gary Houston, which is Whitney's oldest brother, Gary Houston's son, and a little bit of Pat Houston's only child, Rhea, with whom she shares with Gary Houston. And it might be a sprinkle of Nick Gordon in there, because you got to talk about Nick when it comes to this. But I have to first say this. When I first heard the news of Whitney Houston passing away, I immediately said she was murdered. I'm not going to lie. I said she was murdered. Who did it? I don't know. But I always said that something didn't smell right. I felt like, could it have been a hot shot she got? Could it have been, something plastic? Who knows? But what I can say is I don't know who did it. I don't know. And that's legalities. But from the way I see it, even till this day, I don't believe her death was just attributed to narcotics, of her taking it. You understand? I believe that it was more sinister and that there is a huge number of people that were complicit in this. It's just so much. But why do I speak of Pat Houston? I speak of Pat Houston because Pat Houston became the executor of Whitney Houston's estate. She became the executor of the trust for Bobby Christina. And as you all know, Bobby Christina, she had a trust of about $20 million. It could have been 20 or 25 million. I'm going to check. Let me just see. Because it could be 20 or 25. I'm just going to double check. Because I do remember the trust. The trust either was 20 or 25 million. Let me just see. Trust. Okay, so it was $20 million. So I had it right. It was $20 million. Yeah, I just sometimes just gotta double check on these things. I apologize about that. But yeah, she had a good amount of money. That's a lot of money for a young girl to have, which is $20 million to inherit. And she got the first 2 million when she turned 21. She never was able to enjoy the remainder $18 million from it because she passed away untimely. But there were a lot of things that Pat did, even right after Whitney passed away, and it really involved a reality show, The Houstons on Our Own. The girl wasn't ready to be in front of the camera, and she thrust her back into the spotlight dealing with her mother's passing, and she was on alcohol, and then you got to see Nick, who was her brother, and he was her fiance, and then they supposedly had a fake marriage a year later, and all of her crying about, I want Nick, and the girl was not ready to be in the spotlight. And Pat, you dirty for that. But why am I talking about Pat now is because a couple of weeks ago, there was an audio that had leaked of a conversation between her daughter, and Pat's cousin. And the cousin sounds like Roland Martin. Honest to God. The cousin literally sounds like Roland Martin in the audio. But the thing about it is that she talks about how when she was writing her book and she was promoting it on stage, how she proudly walked out gracefully, and for that moment she was Michelle Obama. And that tells me everything about Miss Marion Patricia Watson Garland, because she is not a Houston, and I said it just like that. She wanted that spotlight, and she has seized the moment of being in it since Whitney is no longer here on earth. It's as if she has taken the place of Whitney, minus not being Whitney the singer. And it's as if she wants to be that actual daughter of Cissy Houston's, because from what I read years ago, Cissy adores Pat. And it seems as if she adores Pat because she's the daughter that she wishes Whitney would have been like. Like Whitney had the talent, the success, and the fame, but Pat is wholesome and clean cut. So it's like she wanted what Whitney wasn't in real life, Pat is, and she is. It's like, I had the daughter that Whitney couldn't be. You understand? It's one of those things. But at the same time, I feel as though what Pat is doing is wrong. So for instance, in the audio conversation, she talks about a lot of things, about how people compare her and her child to Bobby and Christina, and she says, we are not that. We are definitely not that. She said, my daughter was able to graduate high school. Her daughter couldn't even go to the 7th grade. And besides, Gary took my daughter, Rhea, to school every day. She never used a school bus. And besides, Bobby and them, they wasn't doing that. They didn't care about that child's education. They was not into that. Okay? But the one thing that bothered me was when she said, you was pregnant with Bobby. You was pregnant on the day you was married, when you walked down the aisle. Now, that's a low blow, because we know chronologically that Whitney was pregnant with Bobby Christina, but she had miscarried previously the year before while she was on the set of The Bodyguard. So she has struggled to have that daughter, okay? Did she get it the non-traditional way? Okay, fine, so what? But that's none of your business, you little bitch. Okay, how dare you? Because let me tell you something. You know why she probably had that miscarriage? Because she was working hard. Really hard, like touring, recording, and making movies. What your husband benefited from. Because, he used to tour with Whitney. He was on all her tours as a background singer. And, all that money that he got, it's as if, let's say, oh, yeah, that's right. When you broke up the marriage between his first wife, Monique, because Monique has said it, and the son said it, which I'm going to read about in a couple of minutes. Yeah, you benefited greatly from Whitney's money and her riches. How dare your little ass say some shit like that? How dare you? Yeah, and so she just blasphemy and just really trashed Whitney in death. She really did. But I'm going to read to you what Gary Houston, and I'm going to say Houston because he's been going by Houston for years, but it's been alleged that his name was never legally changed to Houston. I'm just going to say it's been alleged. I don't know. But I'm going to read this article from fabulous.com. And this is what Gary Houston's son, Whitney Houston's nephew, writes. And it states, it states Pat Houston's nephew caught her trashing Whitney Houston and Bobbi Kristina on someone else's live. The nephew writes, in short, my stepmother of 20-some-odd years, Pat Houston, has single-handedly convinced me that she is a sociopathic master superfan manipulator who was willing to demolish anyone in her path to gain control of the proverbial throne and fortune of my aunt Whitney E. Houston. Thus, my cousin, Bobbi Kristina Brown. She should be investigated. Pat, please step down and relieve yourself of all duties pertaining to the estate of Whitney E. Houston. This open letter serves as a petition to the prior. I've been mulling years now, asking myself why. Am I tripping? Overthinking perhaps? I decided to move on until Christmas Day 2017. I, with clarity, heard my stepmother, Pat Houston, speak of herself in such an astronomically unparalleled, based on worldly fact, egotistical regard on my lovely 20-year-old sister Rhea's Instagram Live Christmas Day feed. As I continued to listen to the conversation that Pat was having with her cousin, I became shocked to hear the negative tone in which she was speaking of my transition Aunt Whitney, which she calls Tia, and cousin Chrissy, of whose fortune and name she continues to enjoy, boast, and profit off of. According to Georgia's one-party consent wiretapping law, it makes it a crime to secretly record a phone call or in-person conversation originating in any private place unless one party of the conversation consents. In the original audio, all were aware of the live broadcast. My sister had been asked specifically, "Are you live?" To which she nodded her head yes. In addition, the private conversation was no longer private on Instagram. Careful, kids. I was shocked not only on Christmas, but in the house that you know who purchased and / or payrolled. Misleading. Isn't this contradicting the loving, peaceful, empathetic demeanor that Pat has portrayed to the world? I was somewhat relieved knowing Pat. To me, her actions and manipulations have always painted her Christmas Day words. On a world stage, though, aside from her self-proclaimed productive relationship with the deceased then, her character has always been flawed based on my observation. I'm not too sure Bobbi Kristina or her mother would appreciate this woman leading their posthumous legacy. In a world where everything moves fast, I ask the reader to pause. Take the data that I present, make your own judgment, then click share. I walked out there like Michelle Obama. That's what she said. I am by no means perfect, and I haven't always been in or around the fishbowl. I don't, however, manipulate and exploit family members to and beyond their death. That can't be tolerated. Growing up in or so far removed from the Houston fishbowl, as Pat refers to it, stands a solid rule to remain loyal, respectful, and mouth shut about anything that doesn't keep the fishbowl clean. Pat doesn't deserve that respect from me, as she married into the already prominent fishbowl. As I write this Facebook note, several books and movies and documentaries have portrayed half-truths and or lies, mostly misrepresented by Pat, most of whom I wasn't around for. I can only stand by for my perspective and understanding. What I did see and experience for years is the selfish, cold-hearted woman that is represented in the audio, opposed to the woman of distinction that my stepmother attempts to display to the world. I strongly feel family business is family business until it's bullshit family business on the airwaves. My parents divorced early. I must have been 3 or 4. I remember Pat, who had been around